Today we're talking about downtown Kansas City, and surely you've noticed there's been a great difference since 2010. And some of that difference has been sparked by the Greater Downtown Area Plan adopted by the City Council in 2010. Envision a downtown Kansas City recognized as the premier location to work, live, and play. A variety of public parks to serve the area are filled with families, while mixed-income neighborhoods support walkable amenities.
The character of the buildings, we're able to reuse some of the old buildings and some of the old houses and refurbish them and really create still a neighborhood feel, but with convenience and accessibility to downtown things.
There's better pedestrian access and improved public transit to connect the downtown area. Density puts more eyes on the street and increases safety. Children walk to quality schools where they can see the city as a place for action and adventure, but also a place where friendliness shows up anywhere.
What I love about Kansas City is the Marriott. It says good morning every day. You feel fun, you feel happy that someone you don't know actually cares.
21st century thinkers and green-collar jobs drive the downtown economy.
Kansas City as a whole has enticed us to move downtown, just again with the growth of downtown.
Green building practices are the norm, and downtown Kansas City is a model sustainable community for the nation. Elected officials and city staff work together, listening to residents so they can write area plans that reflect what residents want.
Citizens should expect, as part of the process, to have an opportunity to be engaged, have an opportunity to speak to those folks in position of power.
This is the vision defined in the Greater Downtown Area Plan. The plan produced 5 goals: create a walkable downtown, double the population downtown, increase employment downtown, retain and promote safe, authentic neighborhoods, and promote sustainability. One clear vision emerged from the public workshops, steering committee meetings, and the planning team's observations.
We must focus on connecting our neighborhoods
to create a strong urban community,
flourishing with diversity, fostering business, maintaining historic neighborhood identities,
and sustaining a safe, vibrant,
and healthy greater downtown area
for current and future generations.
The vision set nearly a decade ago has flourished, and the goals have changed the greater downtown area, but there's still more to do. The City Planning and Development Department staff is about to revamp the Greater Downtown Area Plan during 2018, and the public planning process is crucial to the future of the area. Today we have with us several guests who are going to talk about the Greater Downtown Area Plan. Don't forget, we're also streaming this live on Facebook Live, and so we can get your comments from Facebook and anything that you have to say for us, and we'll answer some of those questions. Let's start with the Greater Downtown Area Plan. From your perspective, what has changed since the 2010 Area Plan?
Sure, thanks, Patrina. I'm Jeffrey Williams, Director of City Planning and Development. I think the biggest thing that's really changed in terms of development within the downtown area is its pace. A lot more development and a wider variety of development. We're really fortunate to have the construction of new buildings, the adaptive reuse of old buildings, preservation of other buildings that's happening in the downtown and the greater downtown area. And when I want people to think about that, it's not just about the downtown core, it's about all the great neighborhoods that are adjacent to downtown.
Hi, Patrina. Gerald Williams, City Planning. I'll be the project manager on the Greater Downtown Area Plan update. And just thinking in terms of the 5 area plan goals, walkability, which is really about mobility in general, not just pedestrians. We made huge strides forward with the introduction of the streetcar, which has allowed people to move around downtown as pedestrians without a car. We have other big transit and bike improvements as well throughout the downtown area. In terms of doubling the population and increasing employment, we've seen unprecedented growth in both residential and commercial development. With over 3,000 new housing units added since 2013, just in the last 5 years. So we're seeing an unprecedented amount of growth in the downtown area that helps both of those goals advance. For safe and authentic neighborhoods, we've pursued zoning and development standard changes. We've pursued improvements in city service delivery and other things, city parks and other PIAC and capital improvement related improvements. So, and sustainability, of course, we've got stormwater, green stormwater improvements reflected in almost all of the city's streetscape improvements. If you look at 20th Street and 12th Street and 2nd Street, and a major area-wide green infrastructure project that's happening in the West Bottoms NAS. So we've made big advancements in all 5 of those goals. It's time to reset our list and update it.
Good afternoon, Chase Johnson, area planner with the GDAP update. Just to echo what Jeff and Bo kind of talked about here a little bit, there has been significant growth in terms of population. I think in 2010 we were about 20,000 residents within downtown. Today we're about 25,000. Projections to 2020 we're going to be about 30,000 to be projected approximately. 81,000 jobs today and within the boundaries of the GDAP. And within the last 8 years since 2010, we've seen about $2 billion of building permit value. So when we talk about investment into the downtown in terms of residents, workers, and general life within downtown, it's been very vibrant for the last 8 years.
That's great. That's great to hear. And we want to hear from you. How do you think that the city is doing with the Greater Downtown Area Plan? We have Cameron Story from the Kansas City, Missouri Health Department, and he is monitoring our Facebook and Twitter comments. Cameron, what are the people saying online?
Well, it does look like we have a little bit of feedback on our audio from a couple of people. Also, some comments about sidewalks, though it's more leaning towards Waldo. But David would also like to see some improvements in our bus system here in the downtown area.
Well, I appreciate the comment. And transit, it really is a pivotal service that is provided really all across the city, but particularly in downtown. Downtown is a destination for folks from really all over the region. So the KC, the Area Transportation Authority, is a big partner of ours. Clearly, as Gerald mentioned, introduction of streetcar in downtown has provided a number of different modes of transportation for people to be able to access downtown. Downtown offers lots of environments where it really is possible for people to live in Kansas City without owning a vehicle. And I think it's one of the goals, again, of the existing Greater Downtown Area Plan, and one of the things that we want to accentuate in an updated plan is looking at the different multimodal opportunities and improving environments for overall walkability in the area.
Thanks, Jeff. And we're going to talk a little bit about transportation later in the show. We want to thank our panel guests in our first segment. And right now, we want to continue to hear from you, continue to give your comments on Facebook Live. We're going to read some of those on air. But right now, we're going to take a break. Just remember, the city is listening, and we will be right back.
Last 5 or 6 years, we're starting getting more and more people coming from all over. You see people from Europe, you see people from Africa, you see people from everywhere.
I love where the district is going. The culture in the community down here is so rich. It's rich in love, it's rich in support. I really couldn't ask to be in a much better place. Very welcoming to new businesses coming down here, from the people to the friends to the family to the culture. It's a great place to be. We strongly encourage others to come down here and make 18th and Vine your home.
If one of your New Year's resolutions is to start your own business, we can help. KC BizCare is a free business resource and information center for new and existing KCMO businesses. KC BizCare provides customers with help understanding and complying with city, state, and federal business requirements. BizCare is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at 1118 Oak Street, right across from City Hall. Or you can email kcbizcare@kcmo.org.
Welcome back to The City is Listening, a live listening session where we get to hear from you. We're streaming this live on Facebook, so we're taking your comments and we'll be able to answer some of those as the show progresses. Right now, we're going to talk about some of the neighborhoods represented by the Greater Downtown Area Plan. We have Jeff Williams with the City Planning and Development Department. He's the director. He's back on the panel, and we'll have our other panel guests introduce themselves and the neighborhoods they represent.
Yes, my name is Ezekiel Amador, and I live on the historic west side, which we all know is the best side. And I participated in the last 2 decades with city engagement.
My name is John James. I'm from the historic Wendell Phillips neighborhood that also in downtown East, which encompasses 18th and Vine, Lincoln, and some of the other great areas of Kansas City.
So let's start off with how many neighborhoods are represented in the Greater Downtown Area Plan, Jeff.
Sure. There are about 20 neighborhoods that are represented in the downtown plan, as you heard from John and Ezekiel, each with different characteristics. Our goal is always to have everybody feel they live in the best neighborhood in Kansas City, Missouri. But when I think people think of downtown neighborhood names, they may think of places like Beacon Hill or the West Side. Places like Crown Center are neighborhoods as well. You have areas like the West Bottoms that are emerging. So the biggest thing is that the downtown really has 20 unique neighborhoods that offer really different kind of lifestyles for someone who wants to be in downtown and near downtown.
Great. Ezekiel, you were around for the 2010 planning process.
Yes.
How do you think that the city was able to connect with the neighborhoods, and just what was your feeling on that whole planning process?
There was a lot of planning. There's a lot of time involved, and everyone was friendly, was open. There was food, there were snacks, there was time for breaks. The communication was good. What ends up happening is you get to start building a relationship with city staff, something that's probably neighbors aren't used to. And you get to get questions answered that you sort of were always curious about. So you start to become a neighborhood resource just by attending and being a part of this process.
Do you feel that the city heard the voice of your neighbors in your neighborhood?
West Side is the best side. We have our own characteristics, and yes, over and over. Staff, you'll see as they put the poster boards around the room and go through that process, that anytime a neighbor had said something, it was immediately captured. Whether it was captured in the main document, I think that the intent and the spirit and the culture was captured most definitely.
Thank you. And John, you work with Wendell Phillips, you're the president of the neighborhood. As a neighborhood representative, how do you feel that the city works with the neighbors and getting them involved?
I think that the city has taken great strides in the last few years to bring us up to speed on how the neighborhood relationship with city government should look. And they've trained, we've had leadership training, we've had the next door, we've had Nixle being implemented into the mix of bringing communications, and the communication office has done a great job in updating the websites and providing that information. But there's still more that needs to be done, and we need to make sure that that it's a comprehensive approach to making sure that the information and the focus is passed down to the neighborhoods, and that the planning committees are able to put out the results of their studies and meetings to the neighborhoods, to the people that when they see something happen on their block or down the street, when they see a construction site go up, that they already know what's happening in their community, because that's imperative, that they feel a part of it so that they'll protect it and be safe in it.
Very good. And one more question for me. How do you feel, how do you plan to encourage participation with this planning process as a neighborhood leader? And what can you say to other neighborhood leaders so that they can encourage their people to participate?
Well, and that's a two-edged sword. We'll do our part to try to be involved, but we need to make sure that the part of the city is to make sure that we're engaged. And if those two work together, then what's going to happen is neighborhoods are going to have ownership of the changes that are made and ownership of protecting the process and plans that will be coming up in elections as we go through, and new taxes and things like that. We'll be a part of it. So we'll make that sacrifice as long as we understand and are part of the collective.
Bertrine, I'm just curious, John and Ezekiel, from your perspectives, what things can the city do, city planning do, to remove any barriers from people participating in the process, or really help offer as many different options for people to participate in the process of developing an area plan?
Again, as Ezekiel stated, and we've seen in other plans that have been created, there are, at the offset of it, there's great participation and responses, and there are meetings, and there are donuts and coffee and picture-taking opportunities. But when we get to the implementation phase, and we get to the steering phases, we need to make sure that that the documents are available, and things have changed. Again, I say, what happened 10 years ago or in 2010 is we didn't have the communication structure that we have today. Facebook wasn't one of the instant ways of providing information to the neighborhoods. Police weren't monitoring next door like they do now, and so there's a change, and all we have to do is make sure we use the social media and keep us involved.
I think the department can build on the successes that they've had. As a neighborhood, we've been building relationships and trust with the planning department and staff, and so keeping those types of staffs that we have already because it's a relationship, and so we trust you, and that takes a long time. So I think we build on our successes, we build on those relationships, and we build on those positive events that we've been participating in for what, a decade plus now, almost 20 years.
Well, I appreciate the feedback, because what I'm really hearing, it's looking at emerging technologies, new technologies to reach people, but at the same time not to forget the importance of one-to-one relationships and long-term relationships, and really building levels of trust to be able to candidly talk about the things that people are looking to have happen in their neighborhood. So sometimes we get focused on technology versus one-to-one. I'm appreciating hearing that really it's both approaches that make a successful engagement experience as it relates to area planning.
And that's one of the reasons, actually, John, thank you for bringing up the social media. One of the reasons why we decided to do this as a Facebook live stream, to kind of reach out to a different audience that isn't always able to come to the public meetings late in the evening. So also with our Facebook Live, let's go over to Cameron Stewart with the Kansas City, Missouri Health Department. Cameron, what comments are we getting now?
Well, speaking of a lot of the engagement we talked about and using technology, we did speak with a few people before today about these topics, and saying one thing about downtown is it's a great place for millennials, who we all know, being one myself, are using technology quite a bit, and that being a way to engage there, but also imparting that to them as a different form or a different way of engaging, that there is more to it. Also, we have, looks like we are having more audio issues. I apologize, guys. But also, people were talking about green spaces and how that could make them feel more at home in the downtown area as well.
Great, Ezekiel?
Yes, and we, in our neighborhood, we can't forget those who don't want anything to do with technology. So what we do is we have a neighbor who does have an internet or a printer print off something for our seniors, someone who doesn't, or not. So I don't want to forget the folks, who are may have a computer but do not, aren't interested in getting on the internet or Facebook or what have you, or the social media. So, but that's one of the tools that we use. We just old-fashioned paper and print and hand deliver to our neighbors. So.
Well, we're definitely going to keep that in mind. Right now, though, we're going to take another break. Don't forget the city is listening. We'll be back right after this.
Have you been a victim of employment discrimination?
Employers cannot discriminate against employees on the basis of race, sex, age, national origin, religion, disability, gender identity, or sexual orientation.
No citizen should be afraid to file a complaint. You have a right and you should exercise those rights.
If you work in Kansas City, Missouri, and if you believe that you have been a victim of employment discrimination, call the city at 816-513-1836. Discrimination. Report it. Don't ignore it. Have you been a
La discriminación no es tan evidente como antes. Sin embargo, la ciudad ha tomado medidas como la aprobación de nuestra ordenanza contra la discriminación existente. La División de Derechos Civiles hace cumplir esa ordenanza. Investigamos quejas de discriminación en vivienda, empleo y lugares públicos. Como miembros de esta sociedad, es nuestro deber reportar la discriminación existente. Para hacerlo, llame al 816-513-1836 o visite nuestra página en internet.
Welcome back to The City is Listening, a live listening session that we get to hear from you. We are streaming this live on Facebook, so leave us your comments and we'll answer some of your questions. We are back with our panel guests, and we're just excited to have everyone here. We have Jeff Williams with City Planning and Development. He's the director. Carrie Tyndall with the City Manager's Office. We've got Bill Dietrich from the Downtown Council, and Matt Staub is Chair of the Parking and Transportation Commission, and they're all here to weigh in on the Greater Downtown Area Plan. Let's start with Jeff. Jeff, what are the projects that kind of stemmed out of the Greater Downtown Area Plan vision, and how have they furthered the goals of the area plan?
Well, through the plan process, about 55 different catalytic projects. So those are larger projects. Those are projects that are of benefit to people who live and work in downtown, and some that are even benefit to people in the entire Kansas City metro. So the plan identified about 55 of those projects, and 34 of them have been completed since the plan was adopted in 2010. So it's really great progress. These are projects that we're talking about road improvements that Gerald had mentioned before, putting civic spaces in places, a performing arts center, recommendations for new bridges, really reimagining lots of neighborhoods. So very large catalytic projects, and we've done a really great job at doing that. And that's to the efforts of city staff, our partners at EDC, the Downtown Council, and really a lot through getting great feedback from neighbors and residents and workers in downtown on what are the amenities they want to see in the downtown.
Thank you. And Carrie, with the City Manager's Office, Economic Development, that's what she specializes in. How did the city help get these projects off the pages of the Greater Downtown Area Plan and in the ground?
Well, there are a variety of different ways that we do that, but from an economic development perspective, a lot of what we do is utilize some of our economic development tools, including tax increment financing. But we a lot of time have to use other innovative programs. So a couple of really instrumental tools that we've been using have been through the Missouri Development Finance Board and their tax credit program. And then we've also leveraged federal grants. So two important initiatives that have catalyzed development and are catalyzed revitalizing development in downtown right now are the Paseo Gateway project, which is at Paseo and Independence, which is helping to leverage a $30 million grant from the Housing and Urban Development Department. And then our Downtown Lyric YMCA, it's going to be a new YMCA for downtown, and that was $4 million in tax credits from the Missouri Development Finance Board that's helping to leverage a $30 million repurposing of that historic building.
Great. And what are some of the additional work that the city departments did to kind of make sure that these projects move forward?
Sure. Well, I think that economic development is definitely a team sport. So, we assist with redevelopment efforts in downtown in a variety of ways. Certainly we receive inquiries from businesses who are interested in expanding and want to know about resources that are available to them to help them build their workforce and try to find out, what resources the city has available. So we assist in that way. We also have a wonderful Kansas City Biz Care, which is a resource for businesses to be able to try and work their way through the regulatory and the licensing processes of the city. So when you're trying to establish a new restaurant, for example, and you need help trying to go through the health department's licensing process, then organizations and departments like KC BizCare can be very vitally important to that.
Very good. And Bill Dietrich with the Downtown Council, can you give us some real numbers, a real look at what has happened since the approval of the 2010 Greater Downtown Area Plan, as far as population, how many new businesses have been opened, housing, some real numbers?
Sure. Let me give you some metrics. The thing about the Greater Downtown Area Plan that's been, I think, great for the city is it really provides the framework that private-public partnerships get developed in and really keeps us on the same page as we look forward. And some of the impacts of that plan, since its inception, we've had over 250 new projects in downtown. Actually, going back just a little farther, there's been $7.5 billion in investment in downtown, greater downtown, 10,000 new residential units. We've doubled the downtown population on residents. Vacancies in Class A offices have dropped from mid-20s to 7%. Assessed value on properties up 30%. The sales tax is up 58% in the last 3 years. $1 billion in culture and arts investment from the Kaufman Center for Performing Arts to the Todd Bolander Center. You mentioned the YMCA. So it really shows a strong economic picture that these investments are turning a very good return for our city. And really making it be a very more livable place and exciting place. The streetcar, which I know Matt's going to talk about, that alone, since its announcement, generated over $2 billion in investment within 4 blocks on either side of that line, from the River Market, Central Business District, and down through the Crossroads. So it continues to give us that kind of guidance. I know we had the Urban Land Institute national team in of industry professionals, and they're really helping us do an assessment of the North Loop. Can we lose the North Loop part of the freeway, and some other issues? And one of their key findings is that this plan and others have been so successful, it's really time to take a look at the future. You mentioned 34 or 50 projects, et cetera. I mean, we've really accomplished the greater part of this plan. So it's a great time to be having this conversation, be looking at the next 5 years.
And that's great. Those numbers sound impressive. Have you exceeded expectations?
Kansas City is on the national stage. What has happened here is a amazing revitalization coast to coast. There aren't many communities in our country have done so much on their own to say an urban lifestyle matters, jobs matter, quality of life matters, and have been investing and committing to their city. And every conference I go to, whether it's international ICSC or IDA or ULI, they know about Kansas City and what's been going on here, and they keep. In fact, I'll close with this. The first 6, 7 years, 8 years we were working on this, I used to go to take delegations to other cities on best practice tours. The last 5 years, I probably do half a dozen to a dozen a year of cities coming here saying, leadership, how did you do this? How did you do that central library? How did you get that streetcar? How did you do a performing arts center, the Todd Bolander Center for Dance and Creativity? I think, again, so I really think that what we've done here is put ourselves back on the national scene. And it's going to take some very thoughtful planning to make sure that we stay affordable, sustainable, livable, and we're in a great place to have that conversation.
Thanks, Bill. So before today, we hit the streets to find out what people wanted us to know about living and working in the Greater Downtown Area Plan.
Another thing that makes it tough to participate in school events and functions downtown is parking. Parking's a really big deal for us.
I don't like the parking situation. It's never fun.
One thing I feel is if downtown could improve on would be enhancing our one-way signs, like make them color-coded to where people will see them. A lot of times people from out of town go up one-ways and accidents happen that way.
So Matt Staub is chair of the Parking and Transportation Commission. And Matt, you could hear what some of the people were saying about parking, some of the traffic issues that they have. So with the Greater Downtown Area Plan, how does the plan address some of that?
Sure. Well, I think it's pretty amazing that we're having a conversation today about parking and traffic challenges. That was not something we were doing when I was involved with the plan back in 2010. So it's in a big part a sign of our success. And there's really, it's one of the reasons we love these neighborhoods is because they're hard to park in. They're very dense and they're walkable, and we can use transit. So we have to balance that because obviously, as others have said, this is an asset for the entire community. So a couple of things we're doing really principally, and it's a theme that everybody's sort of touched on, is that we're giving people choices. A lot of comments are about just walkability and the ability to access different things within downtown. And with changing the way we design our streets to make them more walkable, to make them friendlier, that you actually would imagine walking several blocks through the city and enjoy that like you do when you go to other cities that you love visiting. The streetcar is huge for that because now families that may be intimidated or don't want to have to deal with internal parking density inside the downtown where it's kind of confusing or it may be complicated or expensive, we can now leverage all these lots. We have a ton of parking. It's just that sometimes it's the wrong spot or you don't know how to find it or it's maybe congested in that area. So with walkability, we have bike share, we have streetcar. Now if a family's comfortable at Union Station, for instance, they can park there and they can access all of downtown. So it's more of a park once idea. And all these different modes give people choices. And they mean that people don't need to park and drive as much, especially if they live downtown. I know I live downtown and on most days, that's how I get around. So even if you're a driver, that benefits you because now I'm not taking your parking spot. So we're thinking about all the ways to mix that and be strategic about creating the kind of lifestyle we have that still welcomes everyone.
And so Matt, I guess we can't talk about the Greater Downtown Area without talking about the streetcar. Can you kind of give us an overview of some of the successes with the streetcar?
So when we first worked on the study for the streetcar, we anticipated about 2,700 passengers on average every day. Consistently, we've more than doubled that. Even when it's kind of rainy and depressing outside, people are riding it. So it's really been something that communities embraced. It's become part of the lifestyle of Kansas City. I think it's pretty amazing that it's also sort of a shared space. So when you're on there, you sort of feel your citizenship with Kansas City and with downtown. And it's just a really cool way for us to celebrate and live in our city. So it's really changed the mindset, I think. Some of the projects you guys have talked about are on the map because developers took notice of the ambition that we showed when we built the streetcar. And it's a transformative experience to see what life has changed. I moved downtown in 2005, and it was a struggle to try to get all the goods and services that I wanted inside that life, so I sort of encumbered myself to do that. And now me and much more of my neighbors, many more neighbors, can do that because we have these connections and we have this density of activity now with the streetcar. So it's really, I don't think it's hyperbole to say it's transformed life downtown.
And Matt, as a neighborhood leader in the River Market area, how do you think the city has done with the implementation of the Greater Downtown Area Plan goals?
I think the cool thing about the Greater Downtown Area Plan, and I've been involved with a lot of planning efforts, I know these guys well, I appreciate working with them, is how inclusive the process was and how much everybody from each neighborhood was really, truly down at the table working together with city professional planning staff and consultants to really come up with the best plan. And through the implementation, there's been a focus on that process continuing and being inclusive. So it's challenging. There's a lot of constituencies, but I really do think the voices are being heard and that there's a real buy-in to the fact that this plan was a consensus. It was hard won. and it was ambitious, and it shared a vision, and that we're going to stick to that. And so with that in our pockets, I think we do well to keep forging on.
Very good. Well, Matt, Bill, Carey, thank you all for joining our conversation. We are going to continue our conversation when we come back from this break. We're going to wrap it up and let you know how you can stay connected with the Greater Downtown Area Plan.
Beacon Hill to kick off the southwest quadrant that will rebuild the streets, stormwater, sidewalks necessary to continue the housing redevelopment we've seen in the northern part of the Beacon Hill down to the southern part.
Today's groundbreaking is the product of many hands and many years of hard work and collaboration.
We're going to lay some infrastructure so that this neighborhood that has really made a huge comeback can continue to grow. Again, thank you to the residents of this city for approving our general obligation bond program. This project wouldn't have happened without that support.
Things are going to be looking much, much better in a few months, so let's move some dirt.
Clima severo, problemas de seguridad, información comunitaria, que no lo pillen inconsciente. Regístrese para mensajes de texto gratis sobre información importante. Envíe por texto su código zip al 888-777. Y cualquier cosa que pase, cuando sea que pase, usted lo sabrá. Si vive o trabaja en Kansas City, Missouri, quede informado las 24/7 con Alert KC. Alertas por email y mensajes de voz disponibles. Visite el sitio web. Clima severo. Severe weather. Safety issues. Community updates. Don't be caught unaware. Sign up for Alert KC and get free text messages about important information for you and your family. Just text your zip code to 888-777. And whatever happens, whenever it's happening, you'll know. If you live or work in Kansas City, Missouri, be in the know 24/7 with Alert KC. Email and voice alerts also available. Visit website for details.
We have a really great restaurant and entertainment scene in downtown Kansas City, and I love that. But what I'd like to see are maybe a few more grocery stores and maybe some gas stations. That would be nice. A little bit more convenience would help. It would be nice to have more green spaces in general around Kansas City, but downtown seems to be lacking. We have such a beautiful city full of parks and fountains, and we're a very artistic city. So bringing some more of that downtown would be really wonderful, just as an opportunity to enjoy the bigger city in a smaller space. Sometimes it's hard to have safe green space where you can just go and hang out with your family.
I feel like there should be more open places for kids to run around and play in. Like our playground back, it's like very narrow, and it's like very narrow. I feel like kids sometimes get cramped and everything. And I feel like they should have like more programs for kids to do things after school.
Sometimes it's hard to get across streets because drivers are speeding, or there's not safer alternative for crossing the street on a busy intersection.
Welcome back to The City is Listening. It's our live listening session where we get to hear from you. We are here back again with our City Planning and Development Director, Jeff Williams, and our staff planners who are going to be responsible for the upcoming GDAP area plan process. As you might have heard, the mom and the daughter, they talked about green spaces and wanting to have more green spaces. They talked about some of the traffic issues, and they also talked about, wanting grocery stores and a little bit more convenience in their neighborhoods. How do the public planning process, how do we address that? How does the city address that?
Well, it's part art and part science. We blend community input with our professional expertise in city planning. We hear from the community about things they want and need in their communities, and then we go figure out how to make those things happen through recommendations and strategies and actions in the plan. So it's critical for us to have broad community support in these plans, and so therefore we spend a lot of time talking to the neighborhoods, figuring out what their priorities are, what their needs are within each neighborhood, and then as clearly as we can, showing a direct connection between the recommendation we make in the plan and the community input that was the source of that recommendation.
Thank you. And Chase, we know that social media technology changes by the minute. Since the 2010 planning process, we know that communication has evolved. What are some of the ways that people can stay connected for this planning process?
Yeah, I mean, since 2010, technology has really advanced, and it's a great thing. We're able to reach a bigger audience. So, we'll use the traditional meetings, one-on-ones, and those types of things going forward with this update of the area plan. Also, things like Nextdoor, Twitter, Facebook, Facebook Live events like this that we're doing, we'll incorporate those into the package of an outreach plan. So, we're trying to get as many residents, as many people active in the greater downtown area boundaries, and we want their input. Obviously, the website, I think, is the center of all that to come to fruition. So once we get all that up and running, it'll be good. It'll be good.
As a department, I mean, we're really primed to be able to communicate what residents and stakeholders and visitors of downtown are looking for. So all the information, all the wants and desires, our job is to put that out into the marketplace. So that's to attract interest of people who are willing to make investments in our downtown and provide all those amenities and services. Downtown Kansas City, Missouri serves not only the center of the city, but this entire metro. And as such, there's a responsibility to really broadcast out all those great development opportunities and lifestyle opportunities that happen in our downtown. So it's communication. It's always making sure there's room at the table for everybody to communicate what they're looking for and needing and want to see within the greater downtown area. And as a department, we're fortunate to have a great staff like Gerald and Chase and a number of people where we're able to take residents' visions of what they want from concept, literally through getting development approved, literally to proving construction, and hopefully being there when the ribbon gets cut for the grand opening.
Very good. Well, we just want to say thank you guys again. We're going to talk about our social media, ways that you can stay connected. Again, the city planning webpage is kcmo.gov/planning. You can follow us on Twitter at KCMO Planning. We are at KCMO Landmarks on Instagram. We also have a subscription list where you can sign up to automatically get emails straight from us about any of the planning meetings that are coming up. That's at kcmo.gov/subscribe. So we want to thank you all for watching. Anyone that made any comments on Facebook Live, we're thankful for that. We're going to keep those comments and put them back in the plan possibly. We want to thank all of our guests that came out, our city planning staff, all of the neighborhood leaders that came out, those who represented the Parking and Transportation Commission, the Downtown Council, City Manager's Office, Tatico Productions, all the people that have worked really hard to get this project off the ground. And we're just very excited about this upcoming planning process. So just remember, the city is listening. I'm Patrina Parker, and have a great day.